What's going on, y'all? Episode 22, Let's Be Real podcast. Got a great show for y'all today. Obviously, coming to you after the holidays, after Christmas, man. And so, got a lot to go into and talk about. And again, like I said last time, we're doing one episode this week. So, going to be a little bit longer, about an hour and a half. We're going to try to keep it around that time. But yeah, man, a lot to get into between the Christmas day for football, basketball, and then just last week's games. This week's games got a bunch of stories and headlines for y'all. But look, as y'all know, we're going to start out with the wine. So today I got something good, man. It's a Chateau de Lamarque. I don't know why I always try to do this, but Chateau de Lamarque, it's the Marquis de Evrry. It's a Bourdeaux, man, 2019. I'm drinking some right here. But this one, man, is a lot more Cabernet forward because it's from that left bank of Bourdeaux. So it's going to be more full bodied. It's going to be kind of dark berries. You're going to get some tobacco in it. This one, actually, after going into it and reading, man, I'm actually going to go get another bottle because they suggest to try it after 2025. So if you're looking for a wine and look, it's been great drinking it. I'd probably give it like 8.5 out of 10. It's been great drinking it, but if you're looking for something that you want to store that should be good as far as like an aged one, I would suggest checking that one out. I'll throw the info in the description down below so y'all can check it out. But definitely look into that one, especially if you like Bordeaux or if you're looking to try out a Bordeaux and you like cabs. But look, man, we're going to dive into it. So first things first, we're going to talk about the NFL, man. And we're going to start a little different because we had, 4 teams play on some short weeks. And so we have between Chiefs, Texans, Ravens, and Steelers. They all played each other except the Chiefs and Ravens, within the last week. So we're going to dive into it, man. I'm going to start off with Chiefs. So look, they go 2-0 in their 3-game stretch in 11 days. And the last 2 games, man, they got Chiefs Texans. They beat the Texans 27-19. And then Chiefs Steelers beat them 29-10. And so from this, man, what this told me and what it showed me over the last few weeks with the Chiefs is all y'all in my comments on TikTok and everything about you can't believe I got the Chiefs number 1. They showed y'all why they're number 1. Look, they are peaking at the right time. And look, I don't know why anybody's surprised. Because look, this is the same hole we fell into last year with the Chiefs, right? They kind of worked their way through the regular season. This season, they worked their way through the regular season to a 15-1 record. Last season, they were struggling a bit, and there were some serious questions around them. But towards the end of the year, they start figuring things out. They start peaking at those last couple weeks, going to the playoffs and win, right? And so now, look, I feel like after last season, everybody that was on TV or talks about sports was like, you know what, man, Chiefs, I can't doubt them no more. I'm not going to fall into the same trap again. I'm not going to fall into not believing they can win. And then everybody doing the same thing again this year. And look, I've had them number 1 the whole year because I'm actually not going to fall into that trap. Because to me, they are the best team in the NFL. Situationally, they're the best. They got the best quarterback. They got the best coach. They got the number 1 scoring defense right now. And now their offense is coming around and clicking. You got Xavier Worthy has now been prominently featured and is, a guaranteed almost 8 catches a week and going for about 90 to 100 yards. They get him involved with those jet sweeps, with that speed. I mean, adds a whole different dynamic to him. And now they got Hollywood on the other side, and he's starting to get integrated into the offense. So now they got 2 big-time playmakers, and you see what that unlocks now with Kelsey in this last game. He has a big game. He gets, I think, his 8 catches or something like that, a touchdown, 90 yards. And you still got DeAndre Hopkins as well. And so to me, you got Pacheco in the backfield. To me, they are the most complete team to me. When I look at them, their biggest weakness is a second corner. And, there's a few teams that can expose them with that, but I don't think there's many teams that they're going to see in the playoffs that can expose them with that. And so again, I just when you got the best quarterback, the best coach, best defense, or one of the best defenses, you're peaking at the right time, and situationally you're the best team. What do you want me? Where do you want me to put them, y'all? I see power rankings putting them at 7 or 8, and it just looks just idiotic to me. So, but anyways, man, look, I think going into the playoffs, look, they secure the bye, so now they're going to have 2 weeks off if they want it before they play again. Allows Mahomes to get healthy, allows Travis and all them to kind of get some rest, and allows their offensive line. And look, shout out to Joe Tooney, who they moved from guard to tackle, and since they've done that, have allowed 0 sacks. Or no, 1 sack in 2 games, and that was their biggest weakness, which looks like it's no longer a weakness. So again, man, I don't know what more you would want from the Chiefs. They've beat the most teams that'll be in the playoffs as of right now. They 15-1. Yeah, I don't know what else you could ask for a team. And to me now, if you don't believe in them, you just sound like a hater to me. But man, look, we're gonna stay with it, and we're gonna move into Ravens Steelers, Ravens Texans. So look, Ravens handle business too. Ravens Steelers 34-17, Ravens Texans 31-2, and an absolute just teeth kicking in on the Texans. And look, Ravens in a lot of the same way like the Chiefs right now. Look, they're peaking at the right time. And look, these last 2 weeks, we have seen the best version of the Ravens. Over the last 2 games, Derrick Henry over 30 or over, I think, about 40 carries and over 300 yards. And that's going to be the recipe for them. When Derrick Henry rushes, I think it's over 20 times or something like that, they're undefeated, I think. Anyways, but this is the recipe for them to win. Derrick Henry leading that offense and then letting Lamar just kind of be complementary to that. And so, look, Derrick Henry, 300 yards over the last 2 games. And in those 2 games, Lamar's 15-23 for 200 yards and 10-15 for 168. And so, Lamar getting about 360 yards or 370 yards, and Derrick Henry getting 300 yards. That's the recipe. That is the scariest version of the Ravens, because Derrick Henry is going to wear down a defense. And then when you have to, as a defense, when you have to focus so much on Derrick Henry because he's such a just monster in the running game, that's when you see like they did last week against the Texans, where that big run Lamar had, everybody sells out on Derrick Henry on the fake, and Lamar waltzes into the end zone untouched. And so the biggest question for them, to me, is, do they stay with it? Do they continue to lean heavily on Derrick Henry? Because to me, and I've been saying it all year, that's their best way to win. But we have seen them multiple times this year have games where they lean into Derrick Henry, and then the next game they come out and Lamar throws the ball 35 times and they lose. Or they get down 1 score and they abandon the run, and Derrick Henry ends the game with 11 carries. So to me, their biggest thing is, can they be just disciplined enough to stick with that game plan that is their best game plan of letting Derrick Henry lead the way on that offense. And lastly, man, look, the Ravens, their defense has gotten better. Now, we'll see if that continues to go. I mean, the last couple weeks, you play a Steelers team that, I mean, offensively without George Pickens. Offensively with George Pickens, they're not great. But you take George Pickens away and they're not great. And, I mean, because it basically takes away the only thing that they do well on offense, which is the deep shots to George Pickens. And now, look, they've been better, but that game without George Pickens, they still gave up 17 to a Russell Wilson team with really no weapons on offense and nothing they do well on offense. And then the Texans, again, man, look, big regression from C.J. Stroud. Obviously, 31-2 is crazy, but the amount of throws he just missed in that game was just not – it's not characteristic of how he's been, at least not in his first year, a little bit more this year. And so while the Ravens' defense has been better, I think that these last 2 games have kind of boosted them higher than I think they really are. I think when you play a good offense with a quarterback who's not going to miss, 7 or 8 gimme throws that CJ Stroud missed, we're talking about a whole different game, right? So while I do think Ravens defense has improved, I still think it's not probably as good as people are thinking it is right now. And look, that brings me back while we got the Chiefs and the Ravens peaking at the best time. Steelers and Texans are both trending downward at the worst time. And so, look, if you're just from the Texans' point of view, I mean, you already have your division locked up, not too much to worry about. You're not going to climb up to, the 3. So you're pretty much solidified with where you're at. Right now, it's more so about just can they figure out, their offensive line, and can CJ Stroud get back to playing how he was? Obviously, Tank Dell down, which, man, just tough to deal with, bro. I mean, obviously wish our best wishes to him. It's just a guy who, look, tons of promise, has been a great receiver in his first 2 years, but just has had catastrophic injuries in both years. And it's just, you hate to see that, man. And so hopefully, he gets back, tough injury he's going to have to deal with of coming back again. But definitely hope he gets back on the field. But look, the Texans now, man, you're down your second best receiver, you're down your third best receiver, just depending on kind of how you fit in Tank Dell and Diggs. So it's basically Nico Collins and CJ Stroud. And I mean, the defense, which has 2 of the best edge rushers in the game, like they're gonna have to come up big if they want to win a playoff game. And it's tough to see that happening. But luckily for them, the way it looks right now, because the Steelers with their losses, they dropped the division. I don't think they're going to get it back from the Ravens at this point, just because of what's left on the schedule. And so now it's setting up that we might get Steelers Texans in the first round. And so 2 teams that are just begging to lose every game, it feels like, over the last couple of weeks. And to me, man, as much as I like CJ, I thought coming into the draft, he was my number 1 overall draft pick. I don't believe in Bryce, really. And I thought CJ had what I would want to see from a quarterback. And so this is obviously nothing against him, but I would honestly rather see the Steelers win this game, because I think that sets us up for Ravens Steelers possibly, depending on kind of where they finish out in the year, or we could get Chiefs and Steelers. So I think the Steelers just overall would be a better watch in the playoffs, because I think they have kind of the recipe where they could beat one of these top teams. So, but yeah, either way, man, like I said, I can't see that one of them is going to have to win a playoff game because they play in each other. But it's just after that, I can't see the Texans doing anything. And then I could barely see the Steelers doing anything. But at least the Steelers, I know, have a recipe. And so moving on, man, look, Vikings and Seahawks. And so Vikings take care of the Seahawks 27-24. Darnold with another big game. And look, the Vikings, man, they continue to just keep themselves set up for a chance at that number 1 seed. And it's really all going to come down to, I mean, can they handle business? And then can they handle against the Packers? And then can they handle business against the Lions? And so, I mean, to me, now when I look at the Vikings, and it's, again, a lot of it's going to come down to where they finish. If they get that number 1 seed, I could see them beating any team. That's the craziest part about the NFC, is just the NFC. There's not a team to me. I'd love to say it's the Eagles. I really would love to say the Eagles are like the team that I would say is like the clear-cut favorite, but I don't think they are. I mean, they just, because with the turmoil and just everything that you constantly hear coming out of the locker room, and look, we're going to talk about them in a minute, about, again, shocker, Sirianni with some more newsworthy stuff going on. But um, I think the Vikings have just as good a chance as anybody else to come out the NFC and win the NFC. And if you get that number one seed, I think that would just, again, like, I think it doesn't make them the favorite, but I'd put them right up there with a Philadelphia as far as a team that could win. And again, I mean, like I said, the NFC is so wide open though. I think any team really could beat almost any team in that division or in that playoff, except I would say probably if the Falcons end up getting in, I wouldn't pick the Falcons against anybody. But if the Bucks get in, I think they got a shot to beat anybody in the playoffs as well. So um, again, really big chance for the Vikings. And look, we're gonna look ahead to they got the Packers coming up next. And look, two teams that are hot coming into this game. They both teams great at forcing turnovers, and both teams with quarterbacks who are prone to turn the ball over. So this is going to be, I think, a good kind of measuring stick for as far as Sam Darnold, right? Because look, we've seen Sam throughout the regular season. He's been really good. He's had a couple games where, leaves you wanting a little bit more. But this is the big question with the Vikings going into the playoffs is how will Sam Darnold look in the playoffs? Because we've never seen that. Will he kind of regress back to what we kind of have known Sam Darnold to be over the last, however many years, 6 years? And so to me, I think this is a good measuring stick for him because this is going to be the closest thing you have to a playoff game in the regular season. And look, if they win it, the Lions next week is going to be the same thing. These are basically games that it's going to be a playoff atmosphere where, it's the stakes are a little bit heightened because you're going to have that number one seed on the line. And so to me, I mean, I think, again, good measuring stick for him. Look, we've already seen Jordan Love in the playoffs. We know he can play well in the playoffs. But to me, I mean, bigger thing here is this game is just for the Packers, you obviously want to win it. But this game for the Vikings is huge. Like the Vikings, to me, this is a must-win game. You got to come out and you got to win this game because if you don't, I mean, your one seed's basically done. I think it is done actually. If they lose this, I'm pretty sure they cannot win the one seed. They're locked in, and so obviously big thing for that. And look, with that also comes the whole Lions and Dan Campbell side of this. And so, if you don't know, basically what happens here is if the Vikings win this game against the Packers, which is on Sunday, then the Lions and 49ers game on Monday is completely meaningless. Like win, lose, doesn't matter. There is zero outcome for the Lions because whether they win or lose, the game on the last week against the Vikings is what's going to determine who wins the division. So if you lose it against the 49ers, same thing. Doesn't matter. You play for the division the next week. And to me, for a team that's been dealing with injuries, this would be the perfect game to, probably rest some guys because it's not like you're waiting to see what happens. Like they play in the morning, we play in the afternoon, right? Like, no, they play on Sunday, Lions play on Monday. So you have a day where you can see what happens. And if you see the Vikings win, rest everybody. Rest your starters. It makes no sense on a team that's already dealing with so many injuries and plays a style of football that the Lions and Dan Campbell plays. Rest your starters, man. And I know he already came out and said, we're not resting players. Doesn't matter what happens in that game. But to me, and look, we've talked about it before with Dan Campbell. Like you live with the best of Dan Campbell. You have to die with the worst of Dan Campbell. Whether it comes to, your fourth down, going for it on fourth downs, and it looks great when it works and looks terrible when it doesn't. Same thing, man. Dan Campbell has, come to the Lions and he is set up in that Lions organization. This is how they're going to play. And they're going to give it all every week, and that's how he wants to do it. To me, I think it's the most ridiculous thing you could do as a head coach. And I'm going to be honest, I would be shocked because if I was the GM, I would come to him and say, "Hey, we're resting. You are resting your players. There is no there's no upside to playing your starters in that game. Literally none." Now, if the Vikings lose, absolutely go out there, take care of the Niners, win the division because then you've locked it up. Then you rest the next week. But which I'm sure he would. So unless Dan Campbell is telling me, you, everybody that, hey, you know what? Even if the Vikings lose and we win this week, and week 18 is pointless for everybody. Like, doesn't matter. We've got the division locked up. I'm still going to play my guys. So unless he's telling me that, and he's telling all of us that, then I don't see why he would be playing them this week. Because if the Vikings win, because it's the same thing. You may as well rest your guys, unless you are just thoroughly against resting your players, even in meaningless games. Which to me, again, maybe that's just the culture Dan Campbell wants to set. Maybe that's how it's going to be. But you know what? To me, that's why I've talked about it before. There's coaches who come to organizations, create a culture, and never get over the hump. And that's why you see teams move to guys who other coaches, even when a Dan Campbell comes in and sets a culture. I would not be shocked if, let's say he doesn't rest the guys, whatever. Again, that's kind of what happens with those culture coaches. You make a few mistakes because you're just locked into your culture, and in a year or two, it becomes, well, yeah, but you can't get us over the hump. We're trying to win a Super Bowl. Thanks for setting up the culture. We're going to go get somebody else. And so, again, to me, I think it's if the Vikings win, it'd be absolutely ridiculous, and I'd be also be shocked that the GM doesn't step in. But again, it's what Dan Campbell has set up there, and like if you're a fan of Dan Campbell, I don't want to hear you complain about this because you can't be a fan of the good things he does, and when he does the exact same things and it goes the other way, you can't be you can't be on his side when everything goes well and not on his side when they don't go well because you know who he is. And look, we're going to move on. We got Commanders, Eagles. So another game, man. Look, huge, huge, huge for the Commanders. And as an Eagles fan, I'm not happy about it. So, look, obviously Eagles fall to the Commanders 36-33. Now, obviously you have the extenuating circumstances. Jalen gets knocked out of the game with a concussion. And look, at the time we're doing this, it's Friday night. He still has not been cleared. So I doubt he plays on Sunday, which, to me, get healthy for the playoffs. The only thing I don't like about it is I was really hoping that Saquon was going to be able to go for that record. And now my guess is when he's going to be facing a loaded box because a limited Kenny Pickett who had to go get x-rays on his ribs afterwards is at your quarterback position. I don't think opposing defenses are going to be too worried about Kenny Pickett throwing all over him. So, you never know. I mean, we'll still see. And we're going to talk about the Saquon thing coming up here in a little bit. But look, the thing that came out for me as an Eagles fan coming out of this game, Jalen and the concussion is kind of whatever. It's just part of football. He's going to be healthy for the playoffs. But giving up that defense, which, look, earlier in the season had questions and then looked like it righted the ship and it's number one defense, for you to give up 22 points, 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter of a game you're completely in control in, that worries me some. And look, Jaden Daniels is incredible. He's had an amazing rookie season. But to have that loss coming into the playoffs, just that's a tough one to let go, especially now when that might be and is looking like it's going to be your first round match. So the team that you just were in total control with, and let that other quarterback who's a rookie come out, put up 5 touchdowns on you, 3 touchdowns in the fourth. That's who you might have to play in the first round, and they come back and shock you. Now, look, again, I get it. Jalen was out, but defensively, that is still a massive issue. And so, but again, it goes back to the whole thing is, to me, the NFC is wide open because, look, would I be shocked if in the first round the Commanders beat the Eagles now? No, because I saw what they can do against that Eagles defense. I saw what Jaden can do. Now, put Jalen Hurts in, different game, I get it. But that has nothing to do with the defense and getting stops. And so, to me, it's just that's the biggest part of it is now this team has that kind of motivation of, okay, we can beat them in a shootout and we can throw all over this defense and we can have our way with it. And so, could I see the Commanders upsetting the Eagles in round 1? Yes. Now, could I see the Eagles totally handling business? Of course. But it's just this one, I think, opened the gate a little bit of and opened that door a little bit of, are we going to see a possible Eagles first round exit again? And look, I talked about it earlier with kind of my issue with the Eagles being just kind of the vibes around the team and, Sirianni, and wouldn't you know it, the 1 week, maybe the Eagles escape being in the media for bad reasons. But no, Sirianni and Ertz after the game, Sirianni trash talking to Ertz. Again, it's just, to me, if I'm the GM, when I look at Sirianni, I just don't understand the value he brings. And it's crazy to say because, look, I heard it this week. He has the highest winning percentage of any active coach right now, which is just a testament to, honestly, a testament to the GM and a testament to the talent that we have on the team, because I feel like they're winning in spite of him. And again, it's always something with Sirianni. It's like he cannot help himself. We go back to him making gestures in the Super Bowl and Jalen Hurts has to pull his hand down. And he's kind of, yeah. And then he's trash talking fans against, the Chiefs when they beat them. And then he's trash talking Eagles fans and he's apologizing for that. And it's always something with Sirianni. And as a head coach, your job, especially a head coach who doesn't run the offense, doesn't run the defense, doesn't make situational calls, like, shouldn't your job be to minimize distractions around the team and keep everything kind of put together? But no, we see A.J. Brown has issues every year. We see beef between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. We see beef between Jalen Hurts and Sirianni. We see, beef between Sirianni and an opposing player. We see beef between where we see Sirianni trying to go after a defensive player and not even the DC, but a position coach telling him to back up and get away from him. Like, at some point, all of these things have to kind of just come together at a point where if you're the GM, you got to move on. Like, when does it become like, okay, the benefit we get from Sirianni does not outweigh the amount of turmoil he causes. And that's what it is, man. It's just, look, if he was a player and all this was happening and he was trash talking, I'm fine with it. Do your thing. Like, you're a player. But as a head coach, that's not why I would want my head coach doing. Like, and y'all can disagree with me, but I will put it this way. If the person that you were in charge of, or not you were in charge of, if your boss, whatever you do, wherever you work, was just a loose cannon, you had to check him in meetings from saying different things or making gestures, and he was constantly coming out and causing issues and stirring up drama on your team, you would want him out. So why is it okay for him as the head coach of the Eagles? because that's what he's there for. He's there to manage the team. He's not there to be the, trash talking the fan, trash talking our fans, you know, going at players. And you can see it by, and this is the one I'm going to go to. You can see it by how that position coach, when he tried to go after Jalen Carter, and the position coach was basically like, no, you need to back up, like get away from him. To me, that says your own staff knows that you are a negative to the team and to players, and so keep away from them. And that, again, short of them winning the Super Bowl, I would have to get rid of him. If the GM, you got to get rid of him. And that's going to bring me to my next point, man. And so, sticking with the coaches, you see Belichick obviously signs with North Carolina. Obviously, he was one that I was very high on. I was like, look, I would love the Eagles to go get him, because if you're going to get a head coach that doesn't call the offense and doesn't handle the situational awareness things, why not get the best coach ever who doesn't do those things anyways? At least that way I know I don't have to worry about him starting drama in the locker room with other teams, in the media, fans of every fan base. And so obviously he signs with UNC, but the wrinkle in it is Belichick has an out on that contract in July. And so if you're the Eagles, if you don't win a Super Bowl, and you already thought about getting rid of Sirianni, and Belichick has an out of his contract with UNC in July, to me, it's a no-brainer. I think you got to go get him. You're a team that's ready to win now. And, eventually the bill's going to come due on a lot of these players that we got under contract right now. You may as well go all in, go get Bill Belichick, try to win a Super Bowl. And, if I was the Eagles, that's what I'd do, anything short of winning the Super Bowl. You win a Super Bowl, I guess you kind of got to bring him back. I don't even know if I bring him back after the Super Bowl, me personally, but I get not bringing him back if you win the Super Bowl. And so, to me, that's just kind of where it is with the Eagles. And then, like I said, we're going to stick with kind of the theme here as far as with who's going to get a head coach next. And we're going to go to Caleb Williams and the Bears, man. And so, look, Bears still riding this losing streak. Caleb finally throws a pick, but, again, it kind of, the pick was just what it was. He's running for his life like he was all game. Got to throw up something, just fourth down, got to get the first down. So throw up a jump ball. It is what it is. But bigger thing is, man, you lose 6-3 to the Seahawks, and what do the Bears do moving forward is the big question now. And to me, look, I know everybody had Ben Johnson originally. I was a little bit more hesitant. I like Ben Johnson as far as the play caller, but as far as from a head coaching point of view, you don't know what you're getting. And it would just, to me, I almost before was thinking, you know what, you got to go with somebody who's a proven guy. You got to get somebody in there, because the last thing you want to do is be 2 years into the next head coach. Like, let's say Ben Johnson gets the job. Last thing you want to do is 2 years into that, find out, he's not a good head coach. Great OC, which we've seen. There's guys out there who are not great head coaches, but are great coordinators. And do you want to take a risk on a guy who's never been a head coach with Caleb? Now, if this was last year, I would say absolutely go for it. Like, take the risk. Like I said, I was big on get rid of Eberflus before the season started, because you avoid this situation of second year, second coach, second OC. Because now if this doesn't work, what are you going to be, year 4 of Caleb, third coach? Like, it's just, that's not what you want to have. And so it's the situation they're in. And like I said, I was kind of iffy with Ben Johnson because of that reasoning. But after that 6-3 game, man, I think it's worth it. You got it, because it's just Caleb, he has shown you in just flashes. I mean, even the throw he had, the touchdown that got called back because of the holding, man, he's shown you the talent he has. But he's also shown you that, I mean, if you got to run for your life, because that's what it was. Like, I know a lot of the time and look, Caleb, he does hold the ball too long at times. That wasn't what happened in the Seahawks game. If y'all didn't watch it, that's not what happened in the Seahawks game. The Seahawks were getting penetration instantly all game. And so, again, man, I just think at this point you got to take a big swing. You need somebody in there who big time play caller. I think you got to go Ben Johnson now. And I wasn't as sold on it before, but after watching that game 6-3, where I mean, it's almost embarrassing how elementary they've made this offense for Caleb. I'm all in on Ben Johnson now for the Bears, and I think it's the only right move. I think Vrabel's gonna get some noise for it. I do not want to see him. I mean, he'd be great as far as setting a culture, but I think right now it's not about culture setting. It's about getting somebody in there who can call plays, and so that's why Ben Johnson to me it's a no brainer now. Whereas 2 weeks ago I might have said Vrabel, but yeah, I think you got to go Ben Johnson. It's a gamble, but I think it's worth it. And so next, man, we're going to look ahead to some of these games that are coming up this week. So a couple big games that we got here. And first one, man, we're going Broncos and Bengals. And so obviously Bengals trying to just fight and claw their way into the playoffs as much as they can. And I think, Broncos it's what it is, right? Like, so got this game, Saturday game tomorrow. And look, I think I would love to see Cincinnati win this game. I'd love to see Cincinnati get in the playoffs because a lot like who do we talk about? The Steelers. I don't think they can go far, but I think the Bengals they can be scary in the playoffs because that offense is so good. And when you look at some of these teams, especially at the top of the AFC, you look at the Chiefs. What's their biggest weakness? Second corner. Well, playing a team that's got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, that could be issues, and they play the Chiefs tough already. Not Broncos, Bills, biggest one of the biggest weaknesses for them, secondary. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And Bills and Bengals always play each other tough. Ravens, what's been their biggest issue outside of the offense not knowing what they want to be? Secondary. You can throw the ball on them. So, look, the Bengals, man, if they can get in, I don't think any of those top teams, I don't think any of them want to see them. And so, again, I think they do come away with the win tomorrow. But look, the Broncos are for real, man. Like, I think Sean Payton and that defense, the defense is incredible. Sean Payton scheming it up, and Bo Nix basically just, make the right reads, don't screw it up, let Sean Payton's offense do the work. And that's what they've been doing, and it's been working. But I just can't see them. I don't see them upsetting anybody in the playoffs. I think they'd probably be the team that if you could draft your opponent, that'd be the number one draft pick in the AFC would be my guess. Maybe the Texans, I guess. But one of those two teams, so that's why I would love to see the Bengals get in. But the Bengals, a lot has to fall their way. But it starts with this game. And so, and then, again, you just add Joe Burrow, the fact of the way he's played football all year. And it's unfortunate because he's another guy where if the Bengals weren't so bad all year, Joe Burrow would probably be running away with an MVP right now. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. But again, I think Bengals win it. Again, they're going to need some help, but I think they win it. And I think they're the most of any wild card team, especially in the AFC, they're probably the most dangerous. And then next, man, Rams Cardinals. And so biggest thing here, can the Rams stay hot and keeps the Seahawks out? Because Seahawks just kind of gutted out a 6-3 win just to stay in the mix. And Cardinals still kind of in the mix as well. So this division, man, look, we said it a few weeks ago. It's going to come down to the last week of the season. I think the Rams probably do win this game just because now they're finally fully healthy on that offense. Got Higbee back, Puka, Cooper Kupp, Kyron Williams, Matt Stafford. Like, they got some players on that offense. And look, that defense, young defense, and Vassell, I think is their pass rusher. Look, that defense is starting to come around, starting to peak at the right time and kind of figure it out. So look, again, NFC, I think the Rams are just as dangerous as any team, especially because of how hot they've been and because of just the players they got. Like, again, another team, I wouldn't be shocked if they went far. But again, look, I'm going to preface it with this because the Rams, what happened to the Bucks last week, it happened to them. You walk in against a team that's pretty much, begging for you to put them out of their misery. And that team comes out with more fight than you think. And now all of a sudden, you go from in charge of your own destiny to, oh man, we're in a dogfight for this division. And so the Rams got to make sure they come out ready to play and ready to put this division to bed. And so, look, speaking of the Bucks, man, we got Bucks, Panthers, and we got Falcons, Commanders this week. And so, look, they both playing for the division now. Obviously tied up at the top, and that means Falcons got the division because Falcons have the tiebreaker. And so, with this, man, look, Panthers have been hot. Bryce Young is playing better. And the Bucks, again, I'd love to trust them that they get this done. But I thought they were going to breeze through the Cowboys last week, and we saw what happened there. And so, again, if you're at division game, if you're the Bucks, you got to go in. If you're Baker, you got to go in and handle business. And look, from the Falcons, man, and if you're the Bucks, you also look, Falcons playing the Commanders, that's a monster game, and the Commanders coming off that big win. Jaden Daniels playing well. Commanders are a good team. Falcons, I don't think the Falcons win this game. So if you're the Bucks, you have to be looking at this as a must win. I mean, it's a must win because, if you lose it again, it's just you're leaving too much to fate at that point. But I would say if I'm the Bucks, I'm looking at them and I'm like, look, the Falcons are going to lose to the Commanders. We got to go out and take care of this because then again, your destiny's right back in your own hands and your playoff hopes are in your own hands. You just got to finish out the season. And look, from the Falcons' point, look, you got Penix back there, and he looked good in his first game. Obviously, the stats don't really show how well he played. He had that pick, which definitely not his fault. Definitely Kyle Pitts' fault. But again, it's a rookie in an environment. You're tossing a rookie in. If you're Atlanta, you're tossing a rookie in an environment where, playoffs are on the line. So you're adding a whole extra level of stress into this game for a guy who's going to be making his second career NFL start. I think, he who knows? He might come out and show you like, no, y'all made the right choice. But again, would I be shocked or would I even hold it against him if he comes out and doesn't have a great game against a team that's fighting for playoffs and, you're also have the added dimension of crap, like I got to win this game so we can stay in the playoffs? I wouldn't fault him for that either. And so to me, man, look, that NFC South this week is going to be crazy because of the games that they have going. So, look, I think the Bucks win. I think the Falcons lose. I think Bucks kind of take over that division again, and we'll see what happens from there. But, look, and we're going to talk about, obviously, Penix starting for the Commanders, which means Kirk Cousins probably going to be out. And, look, we talked about it already as far as what if I was him, his agent, what I would do. I'm not playing for y'all anymore. Cut me. Not going wherever you try to trade me. I'm not going to go. So, might as well just cut me so I can do what Russ did. And that's going to get me on this next point of this kind of QB market that's going to be happening this year, man. And so when we look at this QB market, obviously you're going to have Kirk, who high chance he'll become available. You have Russell Wilson. And look, the reports are the Steelers want to keep him. I think it's a bad move. To me, you see what it is with Russ, right? We kind of all assume what's going to happen with them right now is They're probably going to make the playoffs, lose in the first round, or maybe beat the Texans and lose in the second round. And so to me, it becomes then like, okay, we know what you are. That's kind of going to be the ceiling. I mean, how long can you keep your defense at this level with great players who are aging? And so, you know, again, I think we've seen the best that it could be, and it's all right. If I'm the Steelers, look, I know the Steelers and everybody likes to hang their hat on. We don't have losing seasons. But if that's your goal, by all means keep Russ. You probably won't have a losing season with Russ and the defense playing like that. But if you want to, you know, win, or the way I look at it is this. To me personally, I would re-sign Fields because you're still going to be able to get him on the cheap. And now what you can do is, look, if you gamble with him. If he's great, boom, you have a young quarterback who showed promise earlier this year and showed he can win games, and now you have a whole different dynamic. If he's bad, then you're setting yourself up to draft a quarterback and the quarterback of your future. Because look, what I will tell you is Russ isn't the quarterback of the future. Justin might be the quarterback of the future. Or if he's not, you go draft a quarterback of the future. So to me, it's just right now the Steelers are kind of stuck in just like NFL mediocrity, right? They're the Blazers when Dame was there. They're just a team where it's like, yep, 8th seed, and we'll never have a draft pick good enough to get us a generational talent, and we'll never have a losing season, and we're going to get dog walked in the first or second round of the playoffs. And so, I mean, and look, if that's where you want to live, by all means live there. We saw the Blazers do it for years until they finally were like, okay, yeah, no, we're done with this. And, got rid of Dame, had a chance, got the number 2 pick, thought they were drafting the guy of the future in Scoot. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case, but at least you got the option. You have the ability to do it. To me, it's just that in any league, I'm not trying to be in that place, that kind of middle of the pack place where I'm always good, never bad enough to get a good draft pick, never good enough to win anything. And I think that's where they are stuck. And so next, man, look, Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers, the gift that keeps on giving is the Jets, man. And so to me, from everything that it looks like right now, is Aaron wants out from the Jets. And look, y'all know I'm not the biggest Aaron fan, but I don't blame him because, my goodness, the absolute tire fire that the Jets are as an organization, between Woody letting his teenage son make decisions and, him just kind of firing people when he wants or vetoing trades when he wants because of his kids, just doesn't make sense to me. And so if I was a quarterback for the team, I wouldn't want the job. And so you saw that where, look, Rodgers goes out and in an interview says, when they asked him about going back with the Jets, he said, oh, well, I've never been cut by a teenager before. And look, that's a direct shot at Woody Johnson. Like that's almost daring him to fire him, to cut him. And so, to me, I mean, no brainer. You gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah, it's just that was a wild thing to go out and say. And then also, man, look, the Jets also dealing now with Garrett Wilson and, the fallout from him. It looks like he might be wanting to get on the move now. And to me, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, look, he came out and even said, we know who wants to be here and who doesn't after their game last week. And after Garrett Wilson was saying, he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be back or if I would want to be a Jet. And so to me, that signals, if you're the organization, it's like, okay, well, if I bring Rodgers back, I'm going to have to bring Devontae. And then that means I'm probably going to have to get rid of Garrett Wilson because it doesn't look like he's happy in this situation. And so, look, if I'm the Jets, later Aaron Rodgers, later Devontae. Let's re-sign Garrett Wilson. Let's get, who knows at quarterback, but that's what it is at this point. And then, try to go find a coach and a GM who are willing to put their career on the line to be, have their decisions kind of run over by teenagers of the owner. But again, I just, to me, what I probably think is going to happen is Rodgers going to be back. Devontae's going to be back. You're going to have to get rid of Garrett Wilson. You're probably going to sign a head coach that's kind of whatever, and a GM that's probably also kind of just whatever, because who would want those jobs? And so, but yeah, I think Rodgers with the direct shot at Woody though is crazy. And so I think it just kind of shakes up what could happen in New York. And so I think it's going to be an interesting offseason with them. And then lastly, look, Darnold. And look, reports are that Minnesota's not going to let him get to free agency. And so to me, what that means is, I would say they're probably going to try to work out a contract. I know everybody's been throwing around the Baker number. I think Darnold probably gets more than that because there is a handful of teams that need a quarterback. Now, do I think Darnold would be as good with any other team as he is with Kevin O'Connell? No, unless he's going to, San Francisco, Rams, or maybe Miami. But I'm like, Miami's got their quarterback. Rams, they got their quarterback. And then 49ers, I think they have their quarterback. So, he's being tied to teams like, Raiders, Steelers. But again, all those teams, I don't think he's going to be what you see now because he's with Kevin O'Connell. And so I think for both Darnold and the Vikings, it's mutual that they need each other. I think he's gonna fetch on the open market more than Baker, and not only because I think it's just he's worth more than Baker at this point at where they're at, but also the only other way to keep him is a franchise, and the franchise is $40 million. And so that's, I think, the way they should go with this. I think you franchise tag him, so that way, one, you can just push this decision out till next year. But it gives the signal to your team that, hey, we are still trying to win. So for the guys like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, those guys, it's like, okay, we're trying to win. And we have a quarterback that we know can at least, get us into the playoffs, get us a good record, and we'll see what he looks like in the playoffs. But at least it signals to them trying to win. You also keep JJ. You allow him to work out for another year. Look at what he looks like. By then, you should know, okay, JJ is going to be our quarterback of the future. Or if you don't see enough from him, okay, Sam is our guy. And then you can sign Sam to a deal next year. And, especially if he plays well. So to me, I think that's the way to go with the Vikings is franchise Sam, let him play next year, get a real good look at JJ while he's healthy, what he looks like if you think he's going to be your guy, and then go from there. But yeah, and look, we're going to switch it from the QB carousel that might be happening, and let's get into this MVP race, man. And so, obviously, Josh Allen against the Patriots, not a great showing at all. And, to me, like I said, I've talked about it before. I think it's kind of a three-person race between Josh Allen, Lamar, and Saquon. I think Saquon's got to get the rushing record, right? And we're going to talk about that in a second. But I think Josh Allen's still in the lead. I know everybody wants to talk about Lamar against the Texans. It's like, oh, yeah, that's the performance. But let's look, I know he had a big run, but the MVP of that game for the Ravens is Derrick Henry. Lamar completed 10 passes. He was 10 for 15 for $168. Like, that's not MVP numbers. Granted, he didn't need to have MVP numbers because Derrick Henry was taking care of business. So, again, to me, it's just that I don't think that really should have kind of gained Lamar the ground that he got. And so, to me, Josh Allen is still the MVP as of right now. I think that And look, Lamar has had incredible numbers this year. Don't get me wrong, and I love Lamar. Um, but if the best way for you to win is to limit the amount of touches you have, you probably shouldn't be the MVP of the league, because that tells me you're not really the MVP of your own team. Now, look, and I'm not saying Lamar's not. Like, Lamar's clearly the best player on that team, but when your best chance to win is to hand the ball off to Derrick Henry, he's almost getting like the Brock Purdy of last year, where it's like Christian McCaffrey is having this incredible year, and it's like, okay, the way the Niners win is through Christian McCaffrey. Well, the way the Ravens win is through Derrick Henry. And look, Lamar is light years above Purdy as a quarterback, but it's the same kind of thing. And so to me, Josh Allen, and look, I think Josh Allen, it's been overstated how bad his weapons are, because he's got really good weapons. James Cook is a legitimate top of the league running back. Amari Cooper, top 20 maybe in the league wide receiver. Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, two incredible tight ends and two incredible pass catching tight ends. Shakir, a great slot receiver. So again, to me, I think it's a little overstated how bad his weapons are, especially when most of the people that they lost were on the defensive side. The only real piece they lost was Diggs on the offense. And again, Diggs, I mean, had kind of been regressing already. So I think right now Josh has it. Lamar second. But this can move on to Saquon, because I think he is going to be the most interesting part of this whole thing. Because if he can break Dickerson's rushing record, I think it's got to go to him, just because of the Eagles in general and basically him unlocking the Eagles. His case is like Derrick Henry. The Eagles are best when Saquon is running the ball more and the quarterback has the ball less. And again, I love Jalen, love Lamar. It's what it is. But, and look, this isn't me being biased, because look, I didn't even like the Eagles grabbing Saquon initially, because I thought he wouldn't be that big of an upgrade. Clearly, I was wrong. So what I'll say is this: if he breaks that rushing record, I think you got to give him the MVP. Got to give him the MVP. And then it also frees you up, where I think then Offensive Player of the Year you can give to Lamar, who's got the better stats, who probably deserves it more than Josh Allen. And I wouldn't mind that as much as them winning the MVP. So I think I'm hoping Saquon wins it, because I'd love to see a running back win MVP, where it's basically just over the last few years become just a quarterback award. But he's got to break that rushing record. And that brings me to, look, Eric Dickerson talking about it. And there's a couple different things I want to talk about here. One, Eric Dickerson coming out saying, oh yeah, I hope he doesn't break it. Like, I want the record, but if he does, like, it's what it is. And look, I have no problem with that, because if I had any kind of record, I think I hold some records somewhere, but whatever record I have, I don't want nobody breaking it. I hope my records stay forever. Like, that's just what it is. And so I have no problem with him saying that. But for him to kind of say, well, and he's doing it in this many games. Well, OJ had the record in 14 games. Are we going to throw away everybody who beat him and say, nope, OJ's got the rushing record? So unless you beat OJ's rushing record in 14 games, then you don't have the rushing record. No, we wouldn't say that, because then you wouldn't have the rushing record. And so to me, it's just kind of funny how that works, where it's like, oh, well, I did it in this many games and he's doing it in this many. It's like, well, you did it in that many games and OJ did it in less games. So to me, that's just a completely like ridiculous kind of justification of it all, because it almost illegitimizes Eric Dickerson's record as well. And so, look, I hope Saquon can break it. I don't think it's going to happen now with Jalen out and what I think is going to be just a loaded box with Kenny Pickett playing quarterback. I think it's going to look – I think Saquon's going to see a lot more of what it looked like with the Giants than what he's been seeing most of the year because of the quarterback now. We'll see. I hope. Look, like I said, I hope he gets it. But and again, I think if he doesn't get kind of, I would think he'd have to get real close to it as well this week, because if after this week they're pretty much locked into where they're at for the playoffs. I would be shocked if he's if he's 120, 130 yards away from it. I doubt they'll play him on the last week. So I would assume they're probably going to rest guys last week of the year. So unless he's maybe 50, 60 yards away, I don't think they're going to let him play for it. So hopefully he has a great game this week. We'll see. Next, man, let's move on. We got try to keep this under 30 minutes. We should be able to. It's not too much. But NBA, man, look, had the Christmas Day games. We had 5 incredible games on Christmas. For all of y'all who are the OGs and, nostalgia people who talk about you don't watch the league anymore because it's trash, well, it sucks for you because it was great games. And I'm glad you're not watching it. You know what? I prefer you stay away. So, anyways, man, getting into it, first game, we got Knicks and Spurs coming down to the wire. Knicks beat the Spurs 117-114. And look, it's not Spurs. Knicks are for real, man. Knicks, they're getting it together. McHale had a great game shooting the ball, which is just such a welcome sign for the Knicks because we talked about it in our NBA edition that we had of the podcast. But if he can shoot the ball like that, they're a legitimate contender, I think. That unlocks that team is McHale being able to shoot the ball at a high clip. And, it was from everywhere. So that's the McHale they need. And then from the other side, man, look, Wemby, I said it before. I've said it a couple times that I think he's still very raw offensively. But he had a coming out party in Madison Square Garden. And so love seeing that. I still think he's settling for too many outside shots. I think he was 6 for 16 from 3. And look, I love 3-point shots as much as the next guy. And for all y'all who think the NBA isn't as skilled or isn't as exciting or anything as it was before, watch a Spurs game and watch the 7'4" with a 7'8" wingspan Victor Wembanyama, and watch him and him dribbling, pulling up from 3, and the moves he's making. Because if you don't think that's exciting, you don't actually like basketball. You didn't think these games were exciting, you don't like basketball. But watching Wemby is just insane because dudes that big aren't supposed to be able to do what he is. And so, look, I'd love it if he kind of until that shot gets more consistent. I'd like him to dial it back some because he's just so dominant inside. But it's what it is, man. It's part of it. But yeah, Wemby he is just incredible to watch. Next game, man, we got the T-Wolves and the Mavs. So look, tough one for the Mavs, man. Luka goes out early. The Mavs look good. They fight back and make it a game at the end. Kyrie was incredible. But biggest thing is that Luka injury, man. So he obviously left the arena with a calf injury, left it on crutches. And so that could be big. I think obviously the Mavs have talent. Kyrie is a great player, but without Luka, that's going to be tough for them moving forward. And it's going to be real interesting to see how long he's out because obviously the West, man, it's just packed. Every team is within 2.5 games of each other right now. So, if he's out for a month, you could almost see the Mavs falling out of the playoff picture entirely just because you have a bad month. And so, biggest thing, they need to get him back. His health is probably the biggest priority for them right now. But look, T-Wolves, man, on the other side of it, Ant close out the game, had a couple big buckets at the end to kind of put it out of reach and stop the Mavs from mounting that comeback that it looked like they were going to have. But I think, again, they kind of struggle. The Mavs are on this huge run, almost won the game after Luka went out. And I think the T-Wolves, they're still kind of struggling to figure out how to play with one another. And with the Julius Randle addition, his addition has been as bad as I thought it would be. It's actually been better than I thought. Like, they've played better than I thought they would with how bad they're playing with him. And so, to me, I don't think they're contenders the way they're currently constructed. I think the Julius Randle part of it is one of the bigger reasons why. I think, again, it's we talked about it before. I think they're going to have to probably get rid of him and bring in somebody for him, but I just don't know who's going to want to take on Julius Randle. And so going to be hard for them to do that, but until they do, I can't really, or until they really just figure out how to make it work, I can't see them as actual contenders. And look, next game, man, Sixers and Celtics. Sixers with a big win over Boston, 118-114. And look, Boston played well. This wasn't like one of those games where it's like, oh, well, Tatum had a dud or Jaylen Brown had a dud. Like, no, they played well. 76ers, man, Maxey had a huge game. Joel, good game. Caleb Martin hit some big shots for him, which is why they brought him in, hit those corner threes and be a defender. And so, to me, with this game, the Sixers, what they've showed me, and look, this is without McCain still, like, so they still got missing a piece off the bench, who's a scorer. But what this showed me is the Sixers, man, they can be contenders. Now, in a series, would I pick them against the Celtics? Probably not. In the playoffs, am I going to pick them as a Sixer fan? Probably not, because I just can't trust them. But what this game showed me is almost as Joel is kind of the secondary person on the team and Tyrese kind of taking over, that's where they're going to have their most success. Now, Joel is still like their number one option, but I think Tyrese growing into the role where he can take over a game is what they need, especially because, look, I hate to say it, but Joel and his playoffs, it's just, whether we want to chalk it up to injuries or whatever, he's never really been the big time playoff performer. And so I think for them, they've shown they can be contenders. They've shown they can beat the best team in the league. But in a playoff series, it's a little bit different. And so I love where they're at right now, but they got to start stringing together some wins. And, we'll see what they can look like in the playoffs. Next one, man, Suns and Nuggets. So Suns beat the Nuggets 110-100. Look, KD and Beal, monster games. I think, watching KD play is always just great because, look, for all y'all old heads, you should love KD because big time mid range, except you should hate KD because he just went on a full on rant exposing all of y'all on Twitter. And so if you haven't looked at that, go check that out because all the stuff y'all say, he debunks all of it. And it's what most of us tell y'all, but now you get to hear it from somebody who's actually on the court playing basketball in the NBA and not from, these guys who are trying to protect their legacies. So, but look, anyways, man, KD and Beal, big games. Joker has a big game. Murray's quiet. Again, we go back to just the Nuggets and the disservice they're doing Jokic by, not fielding a team around him that can compete and asking him to be the team and put everybody in positions to be successful, especially with Jamal Murray being, chubby Jamal right now and trying to play his way into shape. He should be into shape about a month or two from now, so see if he can turn it around. But again, we talked about it. I think that contract is going to go down as one of the worst in the NBA by the time we're getting about a year or two away from it. And then lastly, man, going to finish with the last game, the one that was probably the most exciting and definitely the most watched, Lakers-Warriors, man. 115-113, Lakers win it on a last second shot by Austin Reeves, or layup by Austin Reeves with like 1 second left. And so we're going to start, man, on the Warriors side of it. Steph kind of erases the Christmas demons he's had where he hasn't played well on Christmas Day. Well, he played incredible this last game, man. And look, did everything he could to get them back into the game and put them into a position to win. Hit a couple monster threes with big time assists with illegal screens from Draymond, a la just primetime Warriors, where he was tackling people. But for real, taking nothing away from Steph, monster shots at the end of the game to bring them within three and then to tie it. And yeah, again, I think it's crazy to see because somebody, and I didn't see it as it happened, but if you look, when he hits the shot that ties the game, the reaction he has, it's like he's not hyped. He's not, and it's not like he's not hyped because like he's like locked in, right? It's almost like dang, I'm giving everything I got, and we're just tied, and they have a chance to go win it. And it looked like one of those. And so, to me, look, we've talked about it before. I think the Warriors have always been in this kind of middle ground over the last few years, really ever since they lost KD. And I know they've won a championship since then. And coincidentally, when they won the championship, they went out and made win now moves. But they've just been kind of stuck in this like, okay, well, we really want to maximize Steph's prime and where he's at. But also, we still kind of want to build for the future without sacrificing too much. So we got to find a middle ground for that. And it's why they've been just kind of whatever over the last few years, mostly. And so, again, to me, much like Denver with Jokic, the Lakers with LeBron, we're going to talk about that. But I think it's just what they've done with Steph is just a disservice because they keep waiting for these young guys to pop. And it's like, okay, well, probably should have got rid of them a few years ago and went for some win now moves. Now they still haven't popped, and it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do now? Because you're just letting Steph Curry kind of waste away on a team that most of us don't think is really going to win after. And then after that huge hot start they had, shocker, almost like you can't go 14 deep every night and win games consistently in the NBA. And so I think, again, we're going to talk about it in a second, some people that are linked to him. But again, I think with Steph playing how he's been the last couple of years, there's no reason he shouldn't be competing for championships. And it moves into LeBron because it's the same thing, man. LeBron, big time game after AD goes down with a rolled ankle early. AD, I mean, it was reported like he could have played if he needed to. And I don't doubt it. I mean, you kind of look at the ankle and it's like it rolls and it's probably like, if it's playoffs, he could probably play. But look, we're in the early part of the regular season, man. Just go ahead, get healthy. See you in a couple days against the Kings. And so, but LeBron totally takes over. Big time game. You get the Reeves game winner. And again, man, it's just, you look at the Lakers, much like with Steph and the Warriors. Lakers over these last few years, it's like you have LeBron in this spot where he's still playing great. And you won't go out and make the moves because, you don't want to get rid of your first round picks, your young players. And it's like, you look back at some of these guys that they wouldn't trade, like THT, and it's like, okay, well, probably could have got rid of him when he was at peak value. And so it's just, now the reports are Lakers willing to part with their 3 first-round picks. It's like, okay. And so now the big question is, who do they go after? And look, I don't think big game hunting is going to be what you want to do. I don't think there's the player out there unless you can go get a Steph Curry or a Kevin Durant, somebody like that. I don't think there's anybody that really moves the needle that's available. And look, I know because we're going to talk about Jimmy Butler being on the move, and we can talk about that right now. But I know Jimmy Butler, basically put out there that he wants to be traded. And so to me, Jimmy Butler doesn't move it for the Lakers. I don't think that's a fit. And so, now granted, it gives you a good defender on the perimeter, which you do need. But it's another guy who really needs the ball in his hands, not really an off-ball player, doesn't really shoot the three well. So to me, it doesn't really fit well. So for the Lakers, I almost want to say, that Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, that and a big would probably be what I would be looking to make the move for with those first round picks. And for me, if I'm the Warriors, Jimmy Butler would be the move I'd probably be looking to make if I'm the Warriors. Because yes, he needs the ball in his hand, but Steph can play really well with the ball out of his hands. Yes, he operates in the mid range. They don't really have anybody that operates in the mid range. You'd have to get rid of Wiggins, who's been playing well, good defender. Jimmy Butler, I'll take the upgrade. So to me, those are for, at least for the Warriors and the Lakers, that's the moves I would make. Now again, with the Warriors, we'll have to see what they're willing to part with. But the Lakers front office and Pelinka coming out saying they're willing to part with those 3 first round picks, that's huge. The only other person I would say that I don't know how the fit would be, but I kind of like it, would be Sacramento and De'Aaron Fox. If they could kind of finagle that. Again, it would probably take a lot. I don't know how the salaries and everything would work and what they need to get rid of. But because that one really just thought about it in the moment. But that would be the only other thing. But outside of that, I think the Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, find a big, whether it's a Jonas Valanciunas, who you could have had in the offseason, or, somebody else like that. And then Warriors, I think, look, Jimmy Butler makes a lot of sense for them. And then while we're on the Kings, let's talk about Mike Brown getting fired, man. So, look, obviously the Kings have had a really, really bad year. The way I look at it, Mike Brown is a really good coach. I like Mike Brown a lot. I think I don't think he deserved to be fired. But I also understand, in the NBA, it's what it is. Coaches get canned quickly and frequently. What I would say is, look, and it's maybe, it kind of got stale in the locker room. That's a thing that happens where, you've had a coach there for a few years and it's just, it's time to move on, get a new voice in there. I get that. Also, with the talks of them possibly being ready to trade De'Aaron Fox, I would almost think it could be just, look, hey, they're looking to rebuild. And if you get rid of De'Aaron, do you want to start a rebuild with Mike Brown? Or do you want to get a fresh coach in there who can the team can grow together with? Because how long are you really going to keep Mike Brown if you're going to do a rebuild? Probably not too long. So makes sense. The only thing I think that it's bad is because this has been his fourth head coaching job, I think. Cleveland Lakers. I'm missing somebody. Kings, whatever. But fourth coaching job, third, whatever it is. I don't know if he's going to get another chance. My guess is, at least right away, he probably gets a call to be an assistant somewhere. But we'll see what happens with that. But like I said, I think he's a great coach. I mean, look, when he got to the Kings and what he's helped them get to, he deserves credit for that. He's got a coach of the year. And to me, what he's shown is he's been able to coach great players like a LeBron James. He's also been able to coach guys where it's like maybe they don't have that high-end talent like he has with the Kings, where you're talking about De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, but he's able to take that and maximize that. And so I think that's where his value is. He's sat under Kerr. He sat under some great head coaches. I think he should get a job somewhere else as a head coach. Just kind of a matter of how long it'll take and what job he wants. Because again, typically not too many good jobs coming open for coaches. But look, man, that's all we got for you today. Appreciate y'all. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, engage with it on TikTok, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, everything, man. Appreciate y'all as always, and we'll see you next time.